Hey, you're watching a satisfying ear cleaning right now. But let me take you to a time when medicine was made not in labs, but in kitchens. A time when healing came not in bottles, but in whispered advice from a grandmother. And when pain, especially ear pain, meant one of the oldest, strangest cures known to history. Urine, warm, humid, freshly collected, and yes, God, sometimes poured straight into the ear. It sounds wild, unthinkable, but for centuries, into the early 1900s, this was a common remedy in parts of Europe, the Middle East, India, and even rural America. Not only was it accepted, it was respected, a first response to swelling, infection, deafness, and severe earaches. But why? Let's go back, long before antibiotics, before even the idea of germs, people noticed something strange about urine. It was warm, sterile, at least when fresh, and it seemed to clean wounds. Sometimes it even helped with pain. In ancient Rome, medics used urine to clean battle injuries. In Ayurvedic medicine, an ancient Indian healing system, morning urine, called Sivambu, was considered sacred and restorative. They drank it, washed in it, keys, used it to clean ears. You see, ear infections, otitis media, as we call them now, were a terrifying thing back then, especially for children. There were no doctors to prescribe drops, no antibiotics, no hospitals. So when a child cried with an aching ear and a fever rose, mothers reached for the only thing that was always available, always warm, and always clean, at least for a moment. Urine. Sometimes it was from the child themselves. Sometimes from a sibling. Sometimes from a mother or elder, believed to carry more healing power. They would collect it in a clean cup, warm it gently if needed, and tilt the patient's head. A few drops were poured in, not too much, just enough, and the patient would lie still, letting the warmth seep in, hoping the pain would ease, and often it did. Because, as strange as it sounds, urine contains compounds that can reduce inflammation. It's about 95% water, but that other 5%, urea, ammonia, hormones, salt, and even mild antiseptic properties. Modern science tells us that fresh urine is generally sterile, at least until it leaves the body, which means it wasn't as dangerous as it sounds. Not if used immediately. And warmth, that was key. Warmth soothes, loosens wax, opens tissues, relieves pressure. The combination of warmth and slight acidity may have killed off minor infections, or at least reduced their symptoms long enough for the body to fight back. And so, this practice survived, not for years, but for centuries. medieval England, urine was listed in household medical guides. In 17th century Spain, nuns taught young mothers how to use it for fevers, wounds, and earaches. And in rural Morocco, Turkey, and Ukraine, some elders still remember their parents using it in emergencies. To them, it wasn't gross. It was healing, natural, a last resort that sometimes home was the only resort. And it wasn't only used for ears. Urine was believed to treat skin burns, acne, mouth infections, even eye problems. It was a cure, a personal pharmacy, recycled by the body for another chance at healing. Strange, yes, but also strangely logical. In a world without access to anything else, still. Not all treatments were gentle. Some traditions mixed urine with ashes or vinegar. Some boiled it before using, ruining any sterile benefit. And some poured far too much, damaging the ear canal. Not everyone used it safely. Not every story had a happy ending, but the intent was the same. Relieve pain, save healing. Do something, anything, to stop the crime. That's what makes these stories powerful. They're not just about urine. They're about survival, adaptation, hope, about mothers, fathers, old and young, doing what they could with what they had, and the ear, delicate, hidden, so easily overlooked, became a place of quiet care, of strange rituals, and sometimes relief. So as we continue clearing out this ear, bit by bit, wax by wax, think about how far we've come and how far people once went, just to help someone they loved. Here again, asterisk, asterisk. So, what did the process actually look like? Well, it wasn't as crude or careless as you might imagine in many homes, especially in rural Europe, Asia, and Africa. This was considered a careful ritual, not a random act. Let's imagine it together. You're a child, lying on a straw mattress in a darkened room. Your ear aches. You're feverish. The voices around you are hushed, concerned. Someone, your mother, your grandmother, walks into the room with a small clay bowl. It's warm to the touch. Steam curls from the top. You don't know what's in it, but you trust her. She dips a cloth into the liquid, or maybe a spoon. She gently tilts your head, whispers something soothing, and a few drops of warm golden liquid fall into your ear. It's strange, a little ticklish, but soothing does. The pressure fades, the pain does. You rest. That was the hope. And sometimes the result, in some households, they used cotton soaked in urine, warming it by the fire and placing it gently into the ear, like a poultice. In others, they blew warm vapors into the borrowed from earlier smoke-based treatments, and in more formal traditions, like Ayurveda, there were rules: morning, urine only. Goal wasn't just treatment, it was balance, to restore harmony within the body's energy, or doshas. In ancient Chinese medicine, similar beliefs were held. Urine was sometimes mixed with herbs, or even mother's milk, creating powerful folk elixirs. The ear was believed to be connected to the kidneys, and urine, a product of the kidneys, was thought to return healing energy back through that path. Strange logic, but rooted in observation and deep trust in the body's natural cycles. And in many cases, people got better, but not always. Sometimes infections worsened. Sometimes permanent hearing loss occurred. Sometimes, though rarely, it caused more pain than it solved. Still, when nothing else was available, when hospitals were miles away or didn't exist, and when the pain was unbearable, urine was the cure that required no money, no tools, and no outside help. It was always there, and in the eyes of many, given by nature itself. In some parts of Ethiopia, even today, oral traditions speak of first morning water used to treat earaches in both humans and animals. In the Middle East, old Bedouin guides list urine as a remedy not just for ears, but for cuts, sore gums, and infections of the scalp. Even in medieval France, a 15th century healing manuscript included this line: "For the aching ear, warm thy own water, and place within but a drop. Let it rest, and then rest thyself." That idea that rest, trust, and care could restore health still lives on today. We'd never recommend urine as medicine. We know more now. We have better, safer treatments, but back then, it wasn't a joke. In a world without options, and if you think about it, is it really that different from the home remedies we still use? We sip teas for immunity. We steam our sinuses. We apply honey to wounds. We take baths in herbs. We apply oils to calm inflammation. The only real difference is how far we're willing to go when no other help exists. Urine was strange, yes, but it was also free, personal, and, for many, sacred. It was the last resort, and sometimes the only one that worked. Asterisk, asterisk, over time. As with many ancient remedies, this one began to fade. Hospitals spread. Doctors trained. New medicines emerged. And with them came antibiotics, a true miracle for ear infections. Penicillin replaced urine. Sterile drops replaced warm cloth. Science replaced superstition, and gradually the idea of pouring urine into the ear was filed away into the realm of folklore, mocked by some, forgotten by most, but not everywhere in rural areas. find elders in remote villages who remember it being used. Not because they were ignorant, but because they had no other choice. In war zones, in deserts, in places without clean water or electricity, folk remedies often return. But out of necessity, and when something works, even a little, it's remembered. That's how healing traditions survive. Through memory, through stories, passed from mouth to ear. Just like this one. But let's be honest, we know better. Now, urine, while sterile in the body, begins to grow bacteria the moment it exits. Its urea and ammonia content can irritate sensitive tissue. And modern medicine has provided far safer, more effective treatments for the ear. We no longer need to resort to ancient fluids or herbal superstitions. But here's the thing, the core behind the remedy, the reason it was used, is still something we can learn from. Because behind the discomfort of the method was care, a desire to comfort someone in pain, to try something, anything, when they were suffering, to give warmth, relief, hope. And that instinct, Dad, hasn't changed. We still tilt heads when we're in pain, still cradle our ears when they hurt, still find rituals to help us feel safe. Whether it's a warm compress, a few drops of oil, a white noise machine while we sleep, we still treat the ear like something sacred. Because it is. It's how we hear, balance, connect, feel part of the world. And when something goes wrong with it, even a whisper can become unbearable. That's why stories like this matter. Not because we should return to the past, but because the past reminds us what humans do when they have nothing except each other. And perhaps the strangest remedies come from the deepest love.